Welcome to Gettysburg National Military Park. Welcome to the first day's battlefield. My name is John Nicolas. Where are we going today? Nobody knows. I know where we're going. We're going to cross the woods here. We'll end the program along Reynolds Avenue. We'll move up and down, talking about Heath and Pender's Division on July 1st, 1863. They kind of ignore the first day's fighting here. Dan Sickles himself said the Battle of Gettysburg did not start until July 2nd when he was fighting. It would end before July 3rd when he left the battlefield without a leg. A lot of other people have shortchanged the battlefield as well. We do sometimes. When visitors come to the visitor center, so they want to tour the battlefield, but they only have about an hour. We tell them to skip the first day's battlefield. That's a huge mistake. The first day by itself probably determines the outcome of this battle. In fact, July 1st, 1863 really determines the tactical and operational objectives for both armies during this battle. Also, there's a huge amount of casualties here on July 1st. According to one historian, July 1st, 1863 is the 17th bloodiest battle by itself the entire Civil War. There's massive casualties in terms of percentage of regiments that are fighting out here. Regiments, brigades, divisions, and even the First Corps will suffer around 50% casualties or even higher. There's this belief that if a unit suffers 10, 20, or 30% casualties, that loss is catastrophic. That unit is basically destroyed, and that unit is out of action. And so what we're going to look at today is what happens on July 1st, 1863, and how does it impact Pickett's charge on July 3rd. So the question that I'm going to ask at the end of the program is, the Confederate victory on July 1st determined the outcome of this battle on July 3rd. Now, at this point on July 1st, 1863, around 11:30 in the morning, the Battle of Gettysburg is already over. It's already over. Neither gentleman determined to fight here at the battlefield yet. Robert E. Lee is still at Cashtown, about 6 miles to the west of us. There's gunfire out there. He sent orders out to his men. Absolutely no conditions until the entire army is at Gettysburg are you to bring on a fight with the enemy. And somehow he's hearing cannon fire coming from Gettysburg. George Meade is 17 miles away at Taneytown, Maryland. He's not up here yet. Won't be up until here well after the battle of fighting is over on July 1st. Meade is down there. He's centrally located to his army. He's already selected the battlefield down at Big Pipe Creek. If you drive down Route 97, you'll see that place. You'll see it's a perfect place for Meade to fight a battle at. You have a water obstacle, Big Pipe Creek, in front of your lines, your troops right there. You have a long ridge, Park Ridge, which has long gradual slopes. You have good observation, good fields of fire. Behind you, you have this ridge that you just have the ridge which blocks the view of the enemy behind you, so they can't see what's happening back there. And you have good roads to help you move around behind. On the field is after double days, somebody who nobody trusts, nobody likes, it's kind of obnoxious, it's kind of a jerk. He's a man of the First Corps, but the senior general, who's more senior than Doubleday, will be coming up. That's Oliver Howard. And Doubleday himself seems uncertain as to what to do here. He will write, as I mentioned earlier, to fall back without orders. The Green Hill might have inflicted the last of the displaced upon the First Corps and General Reynolds. He knows the First Corps will be coming up. He also knows that Howard is coming up with the 11th Corps. Right now, Doubleday's forces on hand are Cutler's Brigade, which is on the other side of the Chambersburg Pike for the most part. His first three regiments over there, 56 Pennsylvania, 76 New York, and 147 New York, except for the large number of casualties out there. He's got two regiments on this side of the road, the 14th Brooklyn and 95th New York. The Army Brigade is on this side of the field. Actually, they've chased Park Ranger across what we run out, and they're over where the country club area is now. Probably required back in 2010, so they will do something with it. Howard will call back, Doubleday will call back, Doubleday back over the side of the run, position them in Terp's Woods right here. Herbst Woods, the 24th Michigan Monument right here. Actually, Herbst Woods extends about another 100, maybe 100, 120 yards in that direction towards Willoughby Run. I would like to take you down there, but I can't because there's the trail out there is not wide enough for all these people out here. Everybody will get hurt if they go down there. That's the edge of the battlefield over there along Willoughby Run. I mentioned that reinforcements arriving in the fields. First Corps Artillery is behind us there on Seminary Ridge. 42nd Brigade is up here on the McPherson Farm. To our right out here, on the other side of the woods out there, is a very small brigade by Colonel Chapman Biddle. Biddle has 4 regiments. All of them are very inexperienced. 124th, 121st, 142nd, 151st Pennsylvania. They're all rookies, especially 151st Pennsylvania, which are the largest of Biddle's regiments. They have about 451 men. They're known as a school teachers regiment because 39 of the men in that regiment are school teachers. And then they'll have a 4th regiment. The only veteran regiment in that brigade is the 20th New York State Militia, which has been in the war for 2 years now. And there to this, to farther to the west of us out here, they arrive on the battlefield, initially move around to the south of us out here in several different positions. First one is along Willoughby Run out here where they're being shot at by the Confederates on the other side of the stream out here. They'll fall back to another position on McPherson's Ridge where they're shelled by Rhodes Division artillery up here about a mile away. They'll finally move back to the Hagerstown Pike here, the Fairfield Road, where they're facing to the north out here. And just before the fighting will start, they'll move up here to try to link up with the Iron Brigade. There'll be a gap between the Iron Brigade's leftmost regiment, the 19th Indiana, and the rest of the Biddle's Brigade. That gap will be about 200 yards wide. This can be a problem later on. Doubleday is out here. He's got 4,000 men to face 10,000. Anybody think that's good odds? No, not very good at all. In addition to being outnumbered and outgunned because they have more artillery out here and because they have this gap back here, the Corps has several other problems as well. Solomon Merritt, the Iron Brigade commander. While they're out here during this low, an artillery shell exploded near his horse. His horse is wounded. He'll fall in Doubleday, or rather Meredith will be underneath that horse, and they'll have to leave the battlefield. So the command of the Iron Brigade will be turned over to Colonel William Robinson, the 7th Wisconsin. There's also several self-inflicted problems back here that the Union Army has created for itself. There's a difficult command situation. Up here on the either side of the Chambersburg Pike is General James Wadsworth's division. He commands the Iron Brigade right here. He commands Cutler's Brigade on the other side of the pike. There's a gap a half-mile wide between the 2 brigades. To make it difficult for Wadsworth to take command of these troops over on this side of the field, he'll spend most of the day with Cutler's Brigade on the other side of the field. And down here in this area, to the south of this is Biddle's Brigade. Up here is Roy Stone's Brigade. That brigade is commanded by, who is it commanded by? It's commanded by Brigadier General Thomas Rowley. So he's got the Iron Brigade in the middle of his 2 brigades. He can't really command the guys up at Stone's Brigade up here at all. That's kind of good because he's probably drunk that afternoon. So we won't worry about Rowley at all, but we will talk about his soldiers fighting out here. Doubleday knows he's in a bad position out here. Also, for some reason, the largest regiment in the Iron Brigade, 24th Michigan, is pushed forward here almost to the run out here. And the colonel of the regiment knew they were in a bad position out here. Colonel Henry Morrow commands the 24th Michigan. Can't see either end of this flank back here because they're bent back with the 19th Indiana over here and the 7th Wisconsin up here. And so most of their firepower is kind of dispersed in the center right. They're in the salient right here. They're very close to the enemy out there on the stream out here. Woods, about at this point maybe 220 yards in that direction is Willoughby Run. Coming towards Willoughby Run are Heath's other 2 brigades, Johnson Pettigrew's North Carolina Brigade and John Rockwell's Virginia Brigade. Heath's other 2 brigades, as I mentioned earlier, Archer's Brigade has suffered a large number of casualties. I think the number of casualties on July 1st was 34%. And then in the case of Davis's brigade, 56%. Remember, we're still looking at that 10 to 30% rule as to whether or not that many losses considered catastrophic or not. Back here in these woods, pretty much completely in these woods, would be Johnson Pettigrew's North Carolina Brigade. Pettigrew has 2,500 men. largest brigade in the entire Confederate Army. The brigade has been fighting the war down in North Carolina. So this is the big leagues up here. This is the big show up here. And to the right of them is John Brockwell's brigade, which I'll talk about. Actually, to their left is John Brockwell's brigade, which I'll talk about in just a minute. In Gettysburg brigade, he has the largest strength in the entire Confederate Army, 26th North Carolina, which has 843 soldiers in it. And in that regiment, there are a lot of people that know each other. They all share a lot of their last names. In one company, there are 17 coffees. Another company, there's 7 tunnels. And there's a lot of soldiers in North Carolina Brigade out here on July 1st that really relate to each other. Itself had 6 different positions in these woods. 2 are behind you out here, though, was 1 Army Brigade regiment that didn't have to cover the woods. That was 19th Michigan, actually 19th Indiana. It was slightly connected to 24th Michigan out here, but they don't have any cover out there. First, they have low ground out there. And they're dominated by the other 2 regiments of the 26th Pettigrew's Brigade, the 11th and 52nd North Carolina out there. There's also that 200-yard gap between the 19th Indiana, those brigades out there. Those 2 North Carolina regiments, the Confederate regiments out there, they overlap those lines by about a half a mile. So obviously these guys aren't going to be able to hang on very long, take passages in here. At the same time, 24th Michigan's fighting through the woods. Over here on the left, well, things are a little bit different, at least for a little while. Outside the woods here is that Virginia Brigade, Colonel John Brockwell's brigade. And Brockwell's men are moving cautiously forward. I wonder why. Moving cautiously forward towards Roy Stone's brigade. In fact, a major in the 115th Pennsylvania over in McPherson Farm writes that Brockwell seems very cautious approaching us. They seem to attempt to fire at us from long range. Major Thomas Chamberlain will write, they seem to be hanging back as if they were waiting for something to happen on their front. One problem that Brockwell has over here is he has a quarry from them that he's going to have to bypass. And to bypass that quarry, he moves farther to the right, get away from Roy Stone's brigade, so Roy Stone's brigade is remain out there on the road. So their only threat now is from Daniel's brigade, from Rhodes Division out there. Because as Brockwell moves into the woods right here, now he's facing the 2nd Wisconsin, 2nd Wisconsin, the Army Brigade, and those 2 regiments have no problem holding Brockwell's brigades back there. Brockwell will remain content for his men to fire at long ranges at the Wisconsin soldiers out here. But as I said, Wisconsin regiment is falling back here, falling back farther and farther. And finally, we send word over to the right over here, you guys need to retreat with us. These guys, the 2nd Wisconsin, 7th Wisconsin, do not want to retreat. They're doing well over there. Why should we run now? Then look at the left over here and see what's happening on the left. They'll fall back across the woods, out of the woods out here, they'll fall back towards Seminary Ridge out here. At the same time, Roy Stone's brigade out here is being attacked in 3 different directions. By Daniel's brigade, by Brockwell's brigade, and now another brigade coming up, Henry's division, the Scales brigade, North Carolina brigade, Alfred Scales brigade. So these guys are going to have to retreat back across the fields as well. So the line out here is not holding much longer, and these tribes are retreating back across the fields here. And he's got 4 brigades. He's coming forward now. And he thinks the troops are on the run. He should make a reconnaissance forward to see what's happening out here, but he doesn't do that. He's got 4 brigades. He's able to make a 4-brigade attack. I want his entire division to be able to attack, but he won't have 4 brigades today. For some reason, we don't really know why. The Corps commander will pull off one of Pender's brigades. There Thomas's George Brigade. But keep them back on the Hill Ridge, protect the artillery, also link up with Richard Jones' Corps up here. Now, Hill doesn't really need to do this, because he knows coming up the road just about a mile or so away is Richard Anderson's division with about 7,500 men. But he'll do it anyway. So now Pender, who had 4 brigades, now has 3 brigades. He'll give orders to those brigades to attack. Final line out here, as I said, he does make reconnaissance out here, so he does know where he's facing out here. And his brigades are all in different positions out here. Along the Chambersburg Pike out here is Brigadier General Alfred Scales, North Carolina Brigade. He's between East and West McPherson Ridge out here. Farther back, on the other side of the Willoughby Run, is Abner Perrin, Colonel Abner Perrin, South Carolina Brigade. So a lot farther back than Scales is. And then even farther back on her ridge is another North Carolina brigade commanded by Brigadier General James Lane. So in different places, far apart, and Penn will get the orders to attack. Lane's brigade will get the orders last, and so be the last to step off. There'll be a great deal of difference with distance we'll have to make up out here. And coming across the fields now are these Confederate troops. Back here, though, is the remnants of the First Corps out there. And on their flank, way out here at the edge of the woods, on the Fairfield Road, is William Gamble's Cavalry Brigade from John Buford. They have a stone wall out there. They're giving them protection. And as Lane's brigade comes forward out here, they'll run into Gamble's brigade out there. And they'll slow them down even further. So this 4-brigade attack, which became a 3-brigade attack, is now a 10-brigade attack. So now the only guys attacking forward are Colonel Abner Perrin, South Carolinians, Brigadier General Alfred Scales, North Carolinians over here. Up on Seminary Ridge out there is the barricades, which actually run through the woods out here as well. But also, there are 21 Union cannon out here. There's also cannon on the other side of the Chambersburg Pike out here. All firing towards these 2 brigades out here, especially Scales' brigade out here. A worm fence out there. That worm fence actually extended farther across the fields here along the walking trail out here to the woods. And we're standing is about where Perrin's brigade is going to come through. Abner Perrin is the least experienced brigade commander in Pender's division. He's a colonel. He commands James McGowan's brigade. McGowan himself been wounded down in Chancellorsville. He doesn't have that much experience, but he's got a lot of determination. He's also a pretty smart man. Before his troops go forward and have this attack, Captain Joseph Brown of 15th South Carolina to the right, plenty of time can to Perrin in the order to the field and staff. Without firing at all. They're not to stop under any circumstances. Those contestants around it from its positions. They're charging through out here. Being met by cannon fire, busted fire out here. They're not firing the shot. They're not stopping at all. They go forward out here. They reach the rail fence right there, which is where the walking trail lane is right now. They climb over that fence. And be back, and we were met by furious fast and musketry and shell from the enemy. It was brought up to 14th South Carolina was a rail fence about 200 yards from the barricade. That fence out there. As they went over the fence, they were hit by volleys from the Iron Brigade and Billow's men. Perrin said it was the most destructive fire had ever been exposed to. 14th South Carolina looked at us as if it had been entirely destroyed. The Scales been down, laying too far back. It looked like the South Carolinians were on the verge of collapse, about to meet the same fate as Scales' brigade out here. And once over the fence, Perrin had an opportunity. Off to his right out here, connecting down brigade to Billow's brigade, is a battery. And Perrin will order the 1st South Carolina to charge straight towards that battery of 4 cannons. And force them to limber up and pull out of the line, which opens up a gap. And Perrin will order the 14th South Carolina to hit the barricades in the front out here, while the 1st South Carolina will move to the right, move around the barricades, and fire to the flank and rear of the troops along the barricades out here. This is going to cause the entire line to collapse out here. At the same time, his other 2 regiments, 12th North Carolina and 13th South Carolina, 12th and 13th South Carolina, attack Gamble's brigade out here and drive in from the stone wall. The entire Union line out here around 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon is collapsing out here. The troops are retreating back into town. And as the First Corps had not marched to town to get here, they don't know where to go. Howard selected Cemetery Hill as a fallback position because the First Corps had not passed the town to know how to get there. Howard knew this. He also knew that his 2 corps out here did not hold positions out here, yet he placed no men in town to serve his guys get troops back to Cemetery Hill. So thousands of men, hundreds of men rather, become prisoners in the town just because Howard did not think ahead. Now Bishop Jewell is in town. He's been told by me to take that big hill over there if it's possible. I've even heard that order to take that hill if it's possible. They blame Richard Jewell for not taking that hill on July 1st. If they go the second half of that order, Richard will take that hill if it's possible. Don't bring on a joint engagement with the enemy. There's 8,000 to 10,000 Union soldiers on that hill right now. We've got 30 cannons up there.
got General Howard, yes, Oliver Otis, Howard's statue up here on East Cemetery Hill. My name's Tom Holbrook, a ranger here at Gettysburg. That's fairly obvious to everyone. And for the next 45 minutes to an hour, my job, if I do it correctly, is to wrap up the first day of battle for you and give you a little bit of how the first day of battle influenced the second day of battle. Now, as many of you know that were attending the first day project, the Battle of Gettysburg is going to start on July 1st in the morning. With reinforcements coming up into battle, Robert E. Lee and the Army of Northern Virginia are able to push 2 of the 7 Federal Infantry Corps, the Army of the Potomac, from their advanced positions northwest of town in a full retreat through the Battle of Gettysburg. Now, granted, the first day of battle will start right up here on the map. You can follow along if you like. And with those reinforcements, his 2 corps, the 2nd Corps and the 3rd Corps, drive the 1st Corps and the 11th Corps, 2 corps of the Federal Army, off their advanced positions. But it's going to be a hard fight. The Federal Army put up a great defense, not only with General Buford early in the morning, but with the 1st Corps and, of course, the 11th Corps coming up a little later in the afternoon. But the results were the same. The Federal Army, at least those 2 corps, were driven back from their advanced positions. About 5:30 in the evening, Robert E. Lee, the commander of the Army of Northern Virginia, arrives on that first day's battlefield. He's astonished to find how many wounded, how many hospitals are functioning, how much carnage there was on the first day. But those of you that were up there on the first day learned that the first day's battle was very confusing, because the battle lines had not been fully established. So men, whether you're north or south, were just being ordered into the sound of the heaviest fighting. And when that happens, battle becomes very, very chaotic. There's always been historians that say that the Confederate attacks on that first day against the 1st Corps of the Federal line were very uncoordinated. Well, that's because the first line, or the 1st Corps of the battle line, had not been fully established. And so it was in flux. So it's hard to judge your opponent when his line is in flux on where you're going to attack. So a lot of those attacks certainly were uncoordinated. 100 population market town of Gettysburg in 1863. One soldier described the retreat through the town. He was in the 11th Corps of the Federal Army. He said just 3 words: pandemonium reigned supreme. Imagine how confusing that was. There's stories where the Confederate Army of Richard Ewell, particularly Rhodes' division, is chasing down the men of the 11th Corps. Some of the men of the regiments go down a blind alley, and the Confederates sweep in and capture their prisoners, only to turn around and see another Federal unit coming up behind them, capturing them and releasing the Federal prisoners that the Confederates just took. And then the Confederates come back in, capture that Federal group, release their prisoners, and this is a cycle that goes on and on. Now, back in General Lee's days, you could see Cemetery Hill really well from the cupola of Lutheran Seminary. But because the town has grown up, a lot of new growth trees, buildings are higher and things, it's very difficult for us now to see these big, tall, high hills. But in Lee's days at the Battle of Gettysburg, that the afternoon, early evening of the 1st, you could see them very prominently, that Cemetery Hill. he glances to either side of the hill, particularly to the east of the hill where we're standing, and he finds where those other 5 Union Army Corps are. They're using primarily this Baltimore pike. Coming up from the south, columns of troops, infantry, artillery, making their way up towards Cemetery Hill and Cemetery Hill. General Lee later described that in an after-action report, that when he spotted the Army of the Potomac coming up from the south along the Baltimore pike, their lines extended as far as the eye could see. Artillery up on this big 45-plus acre hill, and extend their artillery line up to the hill we're standing on, East Cemetery Hill. General Lee does not fear Federal infantry. He believes he has the finest light infantry in the world. He loathes their cavalry, in spite of what John Buford did, holding back his light infantry that first day, because he has Jeb Stuart, intelligence gatherer supreme. But the one branch of service that General Lee has always caused him problems, that I would like to say he has a healthy respect, maybe even a healthy fear, are these big guns of the Federal Army and every man that mans those guns. So naturally, he wants that hill taken. He doesn't want the Federal artillery to establish protection for those other 5 corps. He wants to take this hill and then deny access to Gettysburg, stop the 5 corps on the 5 Federal Corps on the road coming up to Gettysburg, the Baltimore pike, and attack them at their leisure and win a great victory here at Gettysburg. Attack them on ground that he chooses. So he wants that hill taken before the artillery fully has a chance to set up that defense. So he sends a courier with a message to a trusted subordinate, been around the 2nd Corps, served under Stonewall Jackson for years, Richard Ewell, the commander of the 2nd Corps, who'd been doing the lion's share of the fighting to the north of Gettysburg, driving General Howard's 11th Corps through the town of Gettysburg. And the message read, take the hill if practicable. But he's in an automatic dilemma, because in order for him to take that hill, Cemetery Hill, before the Federals established their protective artillery up on it, he's got to pull back his infantry from chasing the 11th Corps through the town of Gettysburg, hold him back, bring back over 1,800 11th Corps prisoners to guard, organize those infantry in their own units, under their own commands, Georgians under Georgians, Virginians under Virginians. You just don't pull the men back and say, charge! It's suicide. You have to organize an attack. And then, once he's completed getting all those infantry troops in under their own commands, Jubal Early under his command, Robert Rhodes, bring up the reserve Johnson's division, bring up his artillery to support the infantry assault. Because when you're on the attack, infantry's going to take the positions, but they need artillery support to do it. The opposite is true when you're fighting on the defense. When you're fighting on the defense, artillery is going to be the main part of your defensive line, but they need infantry support for the guns. We'll talk about that just in a few minutes later. So, Richard Ewell makes a gallant attempt, sends information up to all of his line infantry that's chasing the 11th Corps through the town. get back, pull back, organize, brings up his artillery, and then something happens. Darkness falls. Darkness falls in Gettysburg in 1863, somewhere between 7 and 7:30. Darkness falls. Now, I ask you one thing. Before I ask you, I'm going to preface this. This is the 19th century. Everything is line of sight. The human eye has no assistance. There's no GPS, no night vision. What's one thing the human body cannot do after dark without assistance?
Fighting. See.
See! Who said see?
Me.
You're a trained West Pointer, aren't you? Are you sure?
I'm just a big old genius here.
Yeah. Well, a genius is maybe better than a trained West Pointer. You can't see. Cemetery Hill are rolling up that Baltimore fight primarily. After dark, the commander of the Federal Army, General George Meade, arrives up here on Cemetery and East Cemetery Hill. He's on the back of your map right here, with a very important man in tow. His name is Henry Hunt, Chief of Federal Artillery. Both Henry Hunt and George Meade know you cannot put 70,000 infantry backing up nearly 400 artillery pieces on 45 acres of ground. They just won't fit. So they have to flesh out their defensive line, just like General Lee figured they would if he didn't take that hill. General Hunt is going to be very influential because he's looking for artillery platforms for the defense. And then infantry is going to come in and support those guns. That's how the tactics worked back in those days. So Henry Hunt is going to be instrumental in setting up this defensive line here at Gettysburg for second and third day of battle. And he's looking for artillery platforms. Artillerists like Henry Hunt look for platforms, ground that is high ground, higher than the surrounding ground, but not too high, because too high distorts the line of sight vision of the human eye. It's hard to judge range and distance when you're too high, but nice gentle slopes of about 5 to 7% grade. That artillery platform needs to be fairly level and free of obstacles, like big statues like this, or houses, or boulders, and so forth. And it needs to have a good field of fire against your opponent. 180 degrees field of fire is perfect. Anything less than 90 degrees, you might want to reconsider that artillery platform. So Henry Hunt goes right to work. Up on Cemetery Hill, he has the best and baddest artillery platform. He's going to eventually put 120 artillery pieces up on Cemetery Hill and East Cemetery Hill, a few batteries over here. Then he's going down to flesh out what will be the right flank of the Federal line. Right down the hill here, you're going to see Henry Slocum's statue right over there on the big high ground. That's a nice artillery platform. He has a little bit easier road to hoe because he has Cemetery Ridge, one big, beautiful artillery platform. How many people have walked through the National Soldier Cemetery, got onto Cemetery Ridge? Beautiful high ground, nice gentle slopes, beautiful artillery platform. All the way down to stop number 12, where that is today, the Pennsylvania Monument, where the ground gives way to the swamps of Fun Run. Henry Hunt, reluctant to put his guns in a swamp, that's the opposite of an artillery platform, seeks General Meade's assistance. General Meade said, supporting your guns for the time being on your right, I got Henry Slocum's 12th Corps. They're going to set up right over here. And I'm going to send a couple of brigades of 12th Corps down into the swamps of Plum Run, take the place of your artillery. So head cut, based on artillery platforms, defense, is setting up that fishhook-shaped battle line. That fishhook-shaped battle line here at Gettysburg. General Lee said it very well and very clearly in his after-action report. And this is important to remember. He said, and I quote, "The position I needed to take to beat the Federal Army at Gettysburg, the plans to take that position were laid down the evening of July 1st, and the plan had not changed through the course of the fighting." So I ask everyone, right from the horse's mouth, what position does General Lee view the key to victory here at Gettysburg over the Federal Army? What position must he be? Say it loud.
Cemetery Hill.
Cemetery Hill. This hill right behind.
Thank you for watching our video. Please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, please leave those in the comments section. We'll work on getting them out to you as soon as possible.